Hi, today's guitar book review isn't on a book, it's on a DVD. It's the Burt Weedon Playing a Day, originally video, now available as a DVD. This one is very similar to his book Playing a Day, as you'd imagine. There are some differences in the content and the way it's presented. I think I preferred this to the book myself. You'll see my video on here reviewing the book, and there were quite a few negative comments I had on that. But the video was better. The video was made later than the book was written, because the book it's really old. You know, it's a really old one, and the video, I think, I've made some notes here. 1988, the video first came out. So anyway, it's mostly very good. It's very clearly explained. The way he's presenting it, I think, is really good, and it's much better than the book in that sense. One of the negative things I found with this one, and this is the same with a lot of the books actually that you get, especially older books, there's a lot of him telling you this is how you do it, this is how you do this, this is the position of your hand, this is how your arm is, do it like this. It's very set in stone. Whereas what I've found with teaching lots of people is that everyone's different. So there's a rough idea of how someone should be sitting or how they should be holding the guitar and the position of the fingers, but everyone's fingers and hands and arms and guitar can be different. So you have to adjust the way you're teaching something depending on the person. But you can't do that when you're presenting a DVD or writing a book, I suppose. But that's sort of a negative thing, but that applies to a lot of books. But yeah, that's the only thing I would say, that if you're watching the video, you shouldn't necessarily follow exactly how he's saying, right, you know, you always move like this or you always do it like this. There's a bit of flexibility there, I would say. So an example of that would be where it says about strumming, always strum from the wrist, not the forearm. Well, I think, you know, if you look at a lot of famous strummers, famous guitarists, they won't necessarily be just strumming from the wrist. Townsend, you know, used to swing his whole arm around, so and he made a good sound. So I don't think that's necessarily true all the time. The first chord that he shows you in this DVD is a C chord. This is aimed at complete beginners. First chord I get you to do is a C chord. Well, the C chord is not the easiest chord to play. A lot of people struggle with that for quite a long time when they first pick up a guitar. So it's not the best one, I don't think, to start with. That's similar to the book, I think, the way he does that. Then he goes for G7, that's the second chord. Well, G7 also, unless you do a simplified version, G7 is difficult for a beginner, sort of to do with the stretching of your fingers. Would have been better off with E minor or something like that. But anyway, that's not a major thing. The chord chart explanation in this is very good. I'm going into details, but these are just based on my notes on it. He explains about chord charts. That's very good, the way he explains it and talks about how they work. That's really good. Talks about 12-bar blues. It's good that he covers that, but it's another example of where he said this is what it is. It always does this, but 12-bar blues isn't always a set thing. You know, as you may know, it changes a little bit. So that's my main complaint, I suppose, with this DVD. Is that there's a lot of telling you this is how it is, do it like this, this is always like this, whereas it's not. So I suppose the idea is to get beginners playing guitar, so from that point of view it doesn't really matter. So overall I think it's better than the book, but it's very dated now, as you'd expect it would be, as it was made in 1988. Still worth a look if you see a copy and you're not paying too much for it, then it's definitely worth a look. It's interesting to see something that was made then by someone who had been around for a long time then, and been playing for decades at that point. So it's an interesting one, and certainly not all bad. There's some really good things in it, but there's possibly better DVD playing guides out there. I'm not sure, I'll have to have a look at some. So yeah, bit of a mixed one, that one. Okay, thanks.